So, how's it going in Mauritius during the heat wave of 2026? Now, initially, when I realized that Europe was going through such a strong heat wave like this, I thought it was just going to be in Europe. Don't know why I thought that, right? Because it's hitting America pretty hard. I was talking to a friend in New Jersey the other day, and she was like, and I was telling her about like the Europe heat wave, France, Spain, the folks. And she was like, yeah, here in New Jersey, it is pretty hot as well. It's over 100 degrees already here in New Jersey. And I was like, oh, snap, this is crazy. So I looked at America's temperatures and I'm like, oh, that's a little wild that, places are over 100 degrees. They're saying they're preparing for the heat wave. Now, the difference between America and Europe, America, we have air conditioners. Europe, you do not. Europe does not have air conditioners. That's something I'm just learning this summer. Quite literally. On the continent of Africa, you're going to have a variance of both. But obviously, if it's a more local lifestyle, they're not going to have air conditioners. They're used to the heat. But there's access to air conditioners if somebody wants them on the continent of Africa. Now, me personally, when I lived in Ohio, it gets very hot in Ohio in the summers, just like anywhere else. And I despised air conditioners. I'll be honest with you. I'm not really big on air conditioners. I'm somebody that tends to be a little bit more cold and I'm not iron deficient. I know my lab results, I know my numbers, okay? I'm good. But I do have more of that African body type that's like, I can't take the cold. I just can't do it. It's not going to work. My DNA very much remembers living on the continent of Africa. That's definitely why I'm here, obviously. But for people that need an air conditioner, it may be life or death at this rate. I mean, and I think it's so sad. May the people rest in peace who have perished and who are going to perish in these heat waves. And, I was listening to the mayor of France, and she's a colored woman. I was shocked. And she was like, this is America's fault. I was like, dang, is it for real? She was like, yes, this is America's fault that we are having this heat wave. They are taking up everything from us. They're taking all of the carbon. They're taking everything for the data centers. They're using the air conditioners. They're doing everything. And so it's just another reason for people in Europe and across the world to look at America and side-eyed America like, y'all are getting all the resources out there. And I was talking to my husband about that, and he was like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of true. America does suck up a lot of resources. But this tea that I'm about to tell you right now, get your coffee. I have mine. Listen, the mayor of New York, Mondani, put out an alert, and he said, listen, keep your thermostats on 78 year round. So when it's too hot, leave it on 78. When it's too cold, leave it on 78. In all seasons, leave it on 78, especially this summer, because he's sending an urgent alert saying that New York, I don't know if he's referring to just New York City, he's the mayor of New York City, I believe, or if he's talking about the state as a whole. New York is about to lose power. And I was just like, wow, this is looking like third world America is about to come through here and shock everybody. And for those people who have not yet been to the continent of Africa or even Europe, because even Europe is not like America, which is something that I was not aware of until moving to Africa and being more aware of the world. I thought like Europe was like America. I thought most places were like America, right? That's what we tend to falsely assume as Americans. America is such a consumer society in a way that no other country on earth is. It's such a wasteful society in a way that no other country on earth is. It's a society filled with people with strange assumptions that the elites of America have given you, to the point that this 4% of the earth's population cannot function in the world properly when they come amongst other humans. What do I mean by that? Most Americans, if they were to talk to a European that has no air conditioner, they think they're absolutely insane. Then they get super patriotic and they're like, well, at least I know I'm American because I have air conditioner. And it's just not a way to assimilate in anybody's society. It's just not a way to relate to other humans who have different ways of life that maybe don't require an air conditioner or don't need an air conditioner. But what you're seeing, again, and you've been seeing this the past 2-3 years, we together have been seeing this, right? Leave a comment down below if you know. They've been looking at the United States differently. Denmark Remember last year, they were mad because President Donald Trump said he needed Greenland. He's like, yeah, I know that's been a part of you for a while, but I'm going to need that because Russia and China. Then we have Maduro of Venezuela. Then we have the Iran war. Everybody's side eyeing America right now, which just makes me really, really happy to be in Mauritius. I'll be honest with you. It makes me very, very happy. Now I'm glad I have my blue passport. It does afford me a lot of privileges, a lot of things, to be quite honest. It just does. But the best way to be an American is to be outside of America. Absolutely. And to learn to live like regular humans other places in the world. Africa is my place of choice. Always, always, always going to remain my place of choice. That's just how it is, because if you're on the ring of fire right now, you know those earthquakes continue to hit Japan, continue to hit Thailand, continue to hit the Philippines, continue to hit Venezuela. And I see people from Asia. They're not from Asia, but they're expats in Asia. And increasingly, they're becoming more curious about Southern Africa. They're becoming more curious about the African countries that aren't corrupt and are stable right now. We did a video on those top 10 countries. You should go check it out. But a few countries that hit the list. Now, typically, your list of anti-corruption in Africa is filled with Mauritius, Seychelles, and then maybe a Botswana, Rwanda. Those are always like your top 5. But we're beginning to see Benin is always on there as well, that I've noticed. But we're also beginning to see Senegal, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, right? These are countries that are very transparent now about their immigration policies, becoming increasingly transparent about being available for not only talent, but for expats and entrepreneurs and investors and retirees to enjoy their time there and to have like a last days, so to speak, place to relocate to that's not necessarily seamless. Immigration is never seamless. Going somewhere new is never seamless, but is easier than other places. Gives you more confidence, more leeway, more relaxation than other places. Isn't going to bribe you the way that other places won't have the bureaucracy, right? Even Europe has a lot of bureaucracy with Portugal and Spain. Those are things you don't want to have to deal with, right? But we are seeing that on one side, people are turning away from America. On the other side, more opportunities are opening for people that want to leave the West. And I think with everything happening with France, a mix between Spain and France, right? Everything happening with France, Spain, and Portugal, you're also going to see expats that are in the diaspora come out of there as well. People that had moved over to the West are waking up and seeing, oh, okay, this isn't right. I got to move on. I got to do something different. This is strange. Let me just go to the global South, because the global South has more leeway. The global South has more investment potential because you're in these societies that have already been built. Everybody's already thought of the idea, but you come out here to somewhere like Mauritius and it's like 50 million business ideas because you're from where? The United States of America. Because you're from where? Canada. Because you're from where? The United Kingdom. And you come out, deploy your capital, invest in the economy, hire people in the economies in the continent of Africa, which has never been easier because you're in the internet age. So you can hire somebody from Kenya in your digital marketing freelance business the way I do, right? I've done it multiple times. Kenyans are some of my favorite people to work with, quite honestly, because they just get it from a economic and business point of view. They understand copywriting, sales. They understand showing up consistently and things of that nature. South Africa as well. I've hired somebody in South Africa, pretty good, but the load shedding kind of got in the way. So I found Kenyans to actually be more consistent. But these are the things that people are talking about. People are looking and saying, okay, how can I create a geo arbitrage lifestyle? How can I create a lifestyle that I don't have to run away from, that I'm not ashamed of, a lifestyle that is more relaxing, a lifestyle that's not going to cost me my life at 52 years old, at 53, at 54. I mean, people are just understanding I'm a human. I'm not a robot. I was meant to walk in the cool of the day with my father, Abaya. I was meant to enjoy nature. I was meant to laugh with my children and go take a walk and hold their hands, walking down the road, taking pictures of our feet while we go and play in the dirt. I was meant to do regular human things. I was not created to be a corporation worker forever. I was not created to sit here and watch TV all day in America forever under the air conditioner while they change all the colors, you know, the way McDonald's used to be red, yellow, all the colors, while they change everything to be black, gray, and gray. You weren't created for that lifestyle. That's something that I absolutely love about Africa. It's so colorful, and more specifically Mauritius. It's so colorful, so beautiful, so fruitful, and it reminds me of a time in humanity that maybe I never had the ability to see in America because I'm 30 years old. Okay, so I'm young, and the America that I was raised in was nothing to be like celebrated. I don't think I knew that as a young child. I was a very discerning child, you can imagine. I was a very discerning child to discern this is right, this is wrong, this feels off. I always wanted to go somewhere else. I originally thought that somewhere else would be okay. I'm gonna go away for college and be in a different state, go down to Florida. I love Florida. I was born in Florida. We traveled a lot when I was growing up in my early years, but then moved to a Jewish community when I was 5 years old, stayed there for 5 to 18 years old, but then also did family vacations, travel. So we would always travel, but come back, right? But listen, I, as a child, was so discerning to the point I knew something was off. I didn't know that I would end up in Africa. That wasn't on my radar as a young child, but the first African country that I'd ever known about was Rwanda. Because in my school, they would always show this documentary. It was a whole assembly they would do every single year. It was something just my school did. It's something they were passionate about. And it would be the gorillas in Rwanda and some lady that's in this like adventurer hat feeding the gorillas. And so we would always hear about Rwanda, Rwanda, Rwanda. That was the first African country that I ever knew about. Never had ever heard of Mauritius. Didn't even know much about Tanzania by the time we had moved there. Didn't know much about it at all. But you get that calling that's irrefutable. You get the calling that it's unexplainable. You get the calling that I'm going to exit and go there no matter what. Doesn't matter what stops me. Doesn't matter if I miss my flight. Doesn't matter if this happens. I'm going to live there, and I'm not returning to the West because I can foresee what's about to come to the West. Because I understand that the West is a fallen society, and I'm not lying to myself. I see this reality that the West is a falling society. And so that's what we did 6 years ago. That's how it happened. And it's been a phenomenal journey. But these are my thoughts sitting here in Mauritius, Africa, chilling, sipping my coffee while I look over. I wish you could see my view, but I'm not going to show you because it's very, very special. But I'm basically just in this jungle area looking at this cactus, looking at the moringa, looking at all of these trees, all of this vegetation. And it's the island life. It really is the island life, especially when you choose the right locations in Mauritius. And I would just never see this in the United States. This would never be my lifestyle of I can just wake up, go pray, go slowly make coffee, get my baby her milk. If I'm pumping it out, if I'm doing both with a formula, I would never even have the rates that I have for the formula even. And my formula doesn't even come from the United States. That's just a whole video in itself about the food. When we purchased formula for our oldest two children in the United States, this was years and years and years ago because our oldest children are teenagers, very long time ago. It was the same, like, I don't know if this is 16 ounces that we get, the same measurement that we purchased back there was $17. We bought it this week for $8. Now, I'm an exclusive breastfeeder, but with my recent daughter, she eats a lot. She's not like our other children. She's very different. We can already tell she's a different child. We know that. We understand. Chubby cheeks, only 2 months old, and my breast milk was on up. She's like, I need more than that. More, mother, more. Give me some more. And so we're like, okay, we'll supplement so that we can also sleep a little bit better and have somewhat more peace, okay? Because our baby daughter, she's a high maintenance baby. She's like, you're gonna have to make more milk than that. That's not enough. For the other children, they're cool. She's like, no, that's not going to be enough, okay? So we're like, fine, let's supplement with the formula. We'll do 60%, 70% breast milk, then feed formula sometimes. But we got it, and our formula comes from France, and it's by EU standards. And I realized, wow, this is better than what I gave my teenage children, because I was on American Food Drug Administration standards. and it's more affordable. America is a matrix. America is a society that is designed intentionally to cause issues to humans. And it's the only society that's like that. Because when I go to France, or if I go to France, I see totally different products. How do I know? Because I see French products here in Mauritius. When I go to Kenya, when I go to Tanzania, totally different products. How do I know? Because I've been and lived in those places. America is a society that it's so indescribable in the worst way. The food, the school system, the lack of creativity, the I want you to work 50, 60, 90 hours a week and have that be your whole value in life. The, oh, don't breastfeed children, just breastfeed them for 6 weeks and then come back to work for 80 hours a week. The policies, and we didn't even touch on the elite corruption with the Epstein and all that. It's such a society that is decayed to the point where it's worse than it was in 2019 when I lived there. It's worse than it was in 2020 when we lived there. And with the age of AI, it's just rapidly decelerating America. Like it's at a deceleration, it's not getting better. And when we left the United States, we knew it wouldn't get better. But to see that it has fallen to this degree this quickly is surreal. On one side, you're thankful that you made the right decision and were obedient to the call that you have on your life. But on the other side, it's bittersweet because it's like, this is deranged. This is weird. Europeans are waking up. Africans are waking up. Asians are waking up. When we left, all those groups were not awake to the detriments of America that we as a family knew and understood. But now, I mean, you can talk to somebody from any of these continents, even Australia, and they'll know exactly what you're talking about. Some will start the conversation for you and say, what's up with President Donald Trump? What's up with America? And I'm just like, child, I don't know. Look, I ain't been there in years, okay? Yeah, I got this blue passport, but that's it. I don't know what's going on because I don't desire to live there. And if you're somebody that's like, wow, I love watching your channel, but I don't know how to make income. I'm not sure how to get my business off the ground. What do you do for a living? Well, I am the founder of a retention marketing firm that is now 10 years old. I've served 257 different businesses across e-commerce, finance, banking institution, tax relief, wellness companies, physicians' offices, tech providers, corporate technology, software as a service, a lot of different industries, DNA as well, that's recent. And my retention firm has got us residency in Mauritius, Africa, and has for multiple years now. We're opening our retention marketing firm out here as well and expanding that way because Mauritius is the best place to do it because it has a 10-year self-employed entrepreneur permit. You just don't have that in other places. Ethiopia is the only other place that has that on the continent, and it's very, very new. I don't know anybody who has been successful in that, but Mauritius has this track record of issuing it and not having an issue with doing it, of being able to submit your paperwork, and it just works out. And so that's how we live abroad. Retention marketing, marketing firm, media company, all the things that are just expanding into publications and into, we want to do more book projects, create more courses, and then transition those courses and get them also in French eventually, also in Creole eventually, and distribute that IP, that intellectual property that we have long-term into regions like Namibia, Botswana, Kenya, going back into Tanzania for distribution. We've already done distribution in Tanzania, especially in the Tonga region, but that's what we do. That's who we are behind the scenes. That's what we do. And that's what our children will inherit, all 6 of them, in their different various ways. Whatever function that they want to take over, they're going to be able to do that. And that's why living abroad has been so amazing. That's why living abroad has been the best decision we could have ever made. And if you're on the fence about living abroad, just know it's easier than it looks. It's easier than living in America 100 times over. Sometimes we just laugh to ourselves and think back, even laughing with the children, like, would y'all go back? And they're like, no. Our teenage children are like, no, we would not, because they also have a level of wisdom, knowledge, discernment. They're very discerning children. They're very much serious, discerning, assertive children because they understand the times. They're not out here like doing all the things that American children do, not thinking like American children. They think as African children because they've been raised in Africa. All praises to the Most High Yah for that. But that's it for this video. Shalom, shalom. I'll see you in the next one. If you are